Hey everyone, Pastor Chase here in Calacali, Ecuador at Hacienda El Refugio. We just wrapped up our week serving here in South America, and we're so excited for you to see just a glimpse of what God is doing here. This trip has been full of moments we'll never forget, serving the local church and community, building relationships, and seeing lives impacted in both big ways and small ways. But instead of trying to sum it up all in one video, I wanted to let each team member share just one word that describes their experience.
Simplicity.
Joyful.
Calzana.
Rejuvenated.
Kindness.
Peaceful.
Muy rico. Rightfulness.
Overflowing.
Rewarding.
Fulfilling.
Let those words stay with you, and when you have a chance, ask those team members about their word. Every word carries a story about what God has been doing here in Ecuador. We can't wait to talk to you about our experience. Thank you so much for your support and your prayers. Without that, this could not have been possible.
We are so thankful for you guys in supporting us and getting us ready to go on this trip and just lifting us up in your prayers. It has been an amazing experience for all of us, and we are so excited to share this with you this morning. We hope that this is also kind of a starting point for missions at Elberta. This is the first trip like this that we've gone on as a church, and I hope that this is going to stir something not only within us, but also within you guys to have more trips like this, whether it's local ministries that we're supporting or it's overseas ministries that we're going and helping out. We hope that this is a good starting point. So this is the team, or part of the team here. These are the people that were willing to talk in front of you guys. So we have Grace, we have Daiquiri, we have Melanie, Katie, and Bo, as well as me and Pastor Chase went on the trip. So we're going to share a little bit of our experience, and I call it an experience because the missionaries that we were staying with there strongly encourage us to call it an experience rather than a trip. And I don't necessarily like either term there, but the purpose behind switching the terms is because a trip is a lot of times all about you, right? You go on a trip with your family and you have a moment with your family, right? It's about you. Whereas an experience is something that not only impacts you, but also impacts everyone else involved within that experience. And so as you hear from the team, you're going to see kind of both sides of that. You're going to see how this trip has impacted their own faith and how God has pushed them. but also how it's impacted the people that we got to go and serve and love on and show the gospel to. So that being said, we're going to jump in with a question for everybody, kind of a warm-up question, and that is, what is a memory from the trip that still makes you smile?
I didn't go last time, so I didn't answer this question. But one of the memories that makes me smile the most is getting to know my team in the challenges where we're, just doing things together. And I've realized that we are very competitive.
I think the memory that makes me smile the most is it was in the video of when we went to a community center and we were serving these senior adults and we did exercises with them. And then I think I stole this from, this was Ben's too, but so I'll let you tell more about it since I stole it from you last time.
No, you're good. So the community center there was a nursing home, and the biggest issue with Calicut and the gospel presentation there is they are primarily Catholic, but it's not Catholic like you would see around here. It's almost like pre-Reformation Catholic. So meaning that nobody reads their Bible. The priest kind of has ultimate say in how you live as Christians, even to the point where they say, don't be involved with the Christian church, and they will cross the street and go around the church because the priest said so, right? And so that's kind of turned people away from hearing the gospel. And at this community center, Karen was one of the missionaries there. She got the chance to share the gospel in probably the most passionate way I've ever seen the gospel shared. At the end, she's just in tears, pleading with these people to accept Jesus, right? And she gets to a point where she calls for a response and hands to be raised. And mind you, all this is in Spanish, right? And there's hands all around the room that are being raised, even Chase, right? He's like, I want some of that. I think he was like, is it time to eat? Because I'll take lunch, right? But yeah, it was a good moment. But it was just incredible to see the passion there, right? Anything you'd add to that?
No, it was just a great experience. Like, it wasn't planned out. We really didn't know we didn't have a lot of time. It wasn't planned out. We just showed up, and we all just spread out and mixed in with these older Ecuadorian people, and it was just a great time.
Absolutely, yeah. Anybody else? Yeah.
I enjoyed the warmth that the people gave us when you approached them, and my memories, I just see the people, and right now I'm smiling. And, the hugs, yes, absolutely. They do a lot of hugging and kissing on the cheeks, and they're just very warm and welcoming.
Part of our whole experience was to, kind of break the barrier between the ministry there and the local community and kind of bridge that gap. And so a lot of it was just us hanging out, trying to, make jokes in Spanish that didn't land. And so you'll hear a lot of just the loving nature of the whole experience was good. But
I love spending time with the little grandmas, but the memory that makes me smile the most was from the children, and I am the most unathletic out of the whole group that went, and a little girl found me and decided that she wanted to play soccer with me. Her name was Alice, and she was really good at soccer, and she had me running up and down that field, and I was sweating and out of breath, and I just stopped in that moment, and I was like, God, I am here in Ecuador, and I'm playing soccer with this child, and I get to pour out love into her in this moment, and it was just incredible. I was very blessed.
anybody else? Okay. I think one of the moments, it was when we were playing soccer there, I asked one of the missionaries, how do you say high five in Spanish, right? And he gave me this term, and I was like, cool, I'm going to run with it, right? He said, you say pound it or hit it, right? And so I go up to all the kids, and I'm like, hey, high five, right? Hit it. And they kind of give me a weird look and give me a little high five, and I do this to a lot of the kids there, right? And I get to the point where I go back to this missionary, and I'm like, hey, man, high five, right? And he's like, you just said pork chop, right? Totally swapped the terms. He's like, that's not it at all. So, yeah, for sure.
Pork chop. Hey, in that video that we showed just before we started and then a few weeks ago, I had everybody say one word that summarized the trip for them. And Amber's word was Kausana. And I don't think anybody in here speaks Kofan. If you do, come talk to me afterwards. But that's a Kofan term. It's one of the indigenous tribes there. So I had her write something. She wasn't able to be here today. I had her write up what Kausana means to her. So this is what she said. One of the words I learned while we were in Ecuador was Kausana. Kausana is a word used by an indigenous tribe, and it means to live or to dwell. It's a simple word, but it has stayed with me ever since coming home. There was something so special about Ecuador, the beauty of the mountains, the slower pace, and the simplicity of life there. It all created a space for me to notice God in a way that deepened my awareness of Him in everything around me. But I also found myself deeply impacted by the people of Kalakali and the way joy shaped how they lived each day. And when I say joy, I mean deep, overwhelming joy that left me in tears. It wasn't the kind of joy that comes from an easy life or from having everything you could possibly want, but a deeper joy that came from faith, meaningful relationships, shared moments, and simply being present. Even in places where people had so little by our standards, there was still an overwhelming amount of gratitude, laughter, and love overflowing everywhere we went. And I think that's where Kausana really began to take root in me. While we were there, life felt less hurried. The people of Kalakali lived slowly enough to be fully present with whatever was right in front of them. They weren't just moving from one thing to the next. I realized how often I do that back home without even noticing it. I stay busy, I stay distracted, I stay focused on the next task, the next responsibility, the next thing that needs my attention, and somewhere in the middle of all of that, I end up giving God whatever is left over instead of what He deserves from me. Ecuador reminded me that God never intended to be something we squeeze into the margins of our lives when everything else is done. He invites us to dwell with Him daily, in the middle of everything. In every moment, every conversation, and every chaotic season, He desires to be present with us in every part of our lives, not just the moments that feel easy or quiet. Since coming home, I've found myself missing that, not just Ecuador itself, but the closeness to God I experienced there and the clarity it brought to what really matters. But if I'm being honest with you, it's been harder than I expected stepping back into the pace of everyday life here. The noise, the schedules, the constant distractions, the pressure to keep moving from one thing to the next, it has all returned louder and faster than I expected. There have been moments where I've noticed myself slipping into autopilot and survival mode again, moving through the day without being aware of God's presence. I think that's what Kausana has stayed so heavy on my heart. It reminds me that the peace I experienced in Ecuador wasn't just connected to a place, but to a posture of slowing down enough to truly dwell with the Lord instead of rushing through life while keeping Him at a distance. And that's what I'm learning to carry forward. That Kausana is more than just a word. It's something that I'm learning to live out at home, and it's shaping how I see life now. It's a reminder and an invitation for right here, to pause in the middle of real life, to stay aware of Him in the ordinary, and to build a life that doesn't just visit His presence occasionally, but actually lives there in every single moment. My hope is that Kausana stays with you in the weeks, months, and years ahead, and continues to draw you back to dwelling with God in the everyday moments, the hard moments, and everything in between.
That is so good, such a good takeaway from for us, at least for this trip. And man, I hope that you guys get to experience stuff like that, of dwelling with God day in and day out. This next question goes to Grace. Grace was one of the, she was the only last-minute addition to the team. We had a spot open up 2 weeks out, and we're searching for somebody to say yes to it, and you did say yes. So could you go into maybe why you said yes? What kind of thoughts went into that?
Yeah, so like Ben said, it was 2 weeks before we were supposed to leave on the trip, and Chase gives me a phone call, said, hey, we had a spot open up. Would you like to go? And my first thought was, absolutely not. I didn't sign up for this. Like, this is not what I want to do. And he's like, just think about it, pray about it. And so I gave it about a day, and the thought that kept coming through my head was, Grace, when are you ever going to have an opportunity to do this again? Like, a trip has literally fallen into your lap. Go. And despite my fear and despite all the things going through my head, I said, okay, I'll do it. I'll go. And 2 weeks later, went on the trip. And I can truly say, I think putting yourself out there and stepping outside your comfort zone is when the Lord can do a lot in your heart, because you're not in a familiar situation. I think you're having to rely on him more than usual. And he opened my heart to realize a relationship with him is so simple. I think here in the States, sometimes, stuff that we see online on the internet is like, you have to do X, Y, and Z, make sure you're doing this, this, and this. And down there, like Amber was saying, life is just slowed down. And it slowed me down enough to be like, Grace, like, it's like you're doing too much. Like, God just wants your heart. There's nothing else that he needs from you. God doesn't need anything from you. He just wants your heart. And it just reminded me of that, being down there, slowing down. Another amazing thing was the community that was down there and being able to see, like, the body of Christ at work, which was so cool to me. Like, we didn't speak their language, as we'll say in a second. Like, we didn't know what they were saying. They didn't know what we were saying. But the way that the Lord was still able to work through that was amazing to me. And to have that connection with people that we didn't know, but to know that we were family, like we were connected because of Christ, which was just like, it was an insane experience. And I think, like, I would have missed all of that if I would have said no. If I would have gave into that fear of like, no, I'll just stay back, I'll let somebody else do it, I would have missed out on all of that. And I think sometimes God gives us opportunities in our lives where you can say yes or no, and I don't think he'll punish you for saying no, but you'll miss out on a whole lot if you don't say yes. And so I'm so thankful that y'all called me and I was able to go on that trip, because it really did change my heart. And hopefully one of y'all can go with us next time.
That's awesome. Just the reminder of like how simple it is. I mean, God literally just wants your yes, and he can do so much with that. I love that. That's so good.
I told Grace while we were on the trip, or experience, that like, I'm glad you gave God your yes. And also just like being reminded in this moment of how easy it is for whenever the next one is, just to give God your yes. It's not hard. Did anybody not raise enough money? Everybody got the picture? It was paid for, guys. Like, it's not hard. There's no excuse. It's an easy yes to give to God. Bo, we work closely with the church in Kalikali. Can you tell us more about them and about their community there in Kalikali?
Of course. That little Christian church, it's if you take this building and put it in quadrants and take one of those quadrants, that's about the size of their worship hall. Maybe 30 members, I think we saw when we attended their service. And like Ben said, they are persecuted by the Catholics, but they've been thriving for 30 years with what they have. They do more with less and I was really amazed by that. And like you said, it really struck me how the Catholics won't even walk on their sidewalks. They box the property. But they keep enduring. They keep going. They keep spreading the gospel. So we got to share that with them and singing. And it amazed me that, they worship so well. They even took our song, started putting it in their language, same words, of course. But I think they outdid us. They sang in their language, their songs. Then they took our songs and then made it their own. And it was really good. And we also got to do the walk around town in Kalikali, where a couple of us would pair up with one of the church members, and they would demonstrate what is good in their town and what is bad. And for mine and Daiquiri's case, we got to go along the street when there was a prominent singer that got well-to-do, became famous, and she put a lot, if not all, her money back into the community. She built a high school, she built houses. There's like a whole block that she just gave back to. And a bad thing that Paula had pointed out was that the police, they're probably corrupted or they're just lazy, but they can't get any support from them. So the crime wasn't too bad that we saw. We didn't see anything like that. But if something happens, the police don't show up. So they do rely on each other, give each other food. They don't have a lot. All their front yards, that from what we witnessed, are little farms, little chickens, guinea pigs, corn they're growing in the yard, which I thought was chocolate plants for some reason. They called it Choco, which is a type of corn, but I'm like, no, it looks like corn, but anyway. And they welcomed us into their house, and we made meals with them together. And we sang together, we prayed together, and it is a thriving little church. And as Americans, especially for me, it's not about what you can get in material stuff. It's take what you don't have and what little you have and make the most of it. And we got to share that with them and run around with the kids, and you guys were great with them. I wasn't very physically able to play soccer anymore, but I did a lot of documenting, and it was just wonderful watching them do what they did with the kids. And Chase, you're a great Goliath, by the way. Looks silly in a climber's helmet, but you did well too, man. And it was just wonderful serving with them. And I would like to do it again because my word was rejuvenated, because it reset my button to thrive for the Lord again and try to omit a lot of this worldly stuff and concentrate on Him. Thank you for hearing me out.
That was good. Yeah, I think one of the things that leaves a lasting impression on all of our hearts is the people of Kalakali, especially those church members that we got to spend so much time with. That word Kausana, dwelling, we got to go to one of their houses and have a meal with them. And it was just such a special, amazing opportunity that we had there with the people of that church in Kalakali. But we also got to serve alongside a ministry there called Hacienda El Refugio.
Yeah, and with that, you see kind of both sides of that experience, right? You have what kind of impact we had on the community and the church members, and what kind of impact they had on us. And Katie, this next question is for you. Would you tell us what it looked like to serve alongside Hacienda El Refugio? What kind of impact did we make? What kind of impact did they make on us? That kind of thing.
Yeah. So the place we stayed that actually hosted us, El Refugio, it is like a retreat. The missionaries that started it, I think in the 90s, one of them grew up in the jungle of Ecuador. His parents were missionaries, and he was really into adventure and, having a lot of fun outdoors. So they started this place. It's about 45 minutes or an hour outside of Quito, which is the capital of Ecuador. And so El Refugio hosts teams or groups or individuals that, want to get out of the city and come, and their mission is to facilitate a deeper relationship with Jesus Christ through nature and outdoor adventure. And so we were able to serve them and help them with the mission that they had going on, but we also got to experience some of the things that teams experience when they come to stay there. And I think it was very well organized, and it was very thought out. Everything was very intentional. So the first day, we did some of those team building activities, and it just brought us close together immediately and just really set the tone for a great week. They challenged us to we had to commit, as a team, to 4 things, and those were giving 110%. And then the second thing was being where your feet are. So being in that moment, not thinking about other things going on or what's coming next, just each moment, just be in that moment. And then they wanted us to commit to challenge by choice. So, whatever you're comfortable with, stepping out of that comfort zone and pushing yourself, challenging yourself to do a little bit more than you normally would, and because that's where you grow. And so we did high ropes course and things that facilitated and gave us opportunities to challenge by choice. And then the 4th one was choose joy. And I will say there was joy, in everything we did. We were, at one point, Bo and I were hitting eucalyptus trees that had been chopped down with sledgehammers that were going to be used as beams in a new cabin that was being built on property that other people, were working on. But and there was just so much joy in that. So it was just a great experience. We were serving, and then we were also, given opportunities to grow as a team and as individuals.
Yeah. One of the things, one of the promises that we had to make there through the missionaries that were there was to give 110%, right? So one of the challenges they did for us, a little example is they asked everybody to raise their hand as high as they could. So I want to do that right now. Everybody raise your hand as high as you can. As high as you can. Marvin, thank you. So the question was that they asked afterwards was, why didn't you stand up? And then I could ask Marvin is, why didn't you get on top of the chair? You couldn't get as high as you can, raising that hand up as high as you can. And that's their example of giving 110%, more than you would normally give while you're here on this experience. It was a really eye-opening moment for us. Yeah, he did. Dacry, how did this trip change the way that you think about serving others and living on mission back home here in the States?
For whatever reason, I felt like I needed to fly 2,000 plus miles to share my testimony, share my story. I thought it would be easier over there. And I will say, God truly does not call the equipped. He equips wait, hold on. Am I saying that right? Okay. Yeah. Equips the called. And he allowed me to step out boldly in my faith and share my testimony publicly for the first time. When the guys would say, hey, who wants to pray? Every now and then I would be like, here, I'll pray for the group. And that's not something that I do a lot here. So I really am leaning into how do I share what I'm doing? The second part of that was our mission here at the church is to love God and to love people. And I wanted to go to Ecuador so that I could show God how I could love people. And I felt the exact opposite, actually. I felt like the people of Ecuador loved on us so much and just blessed us. And I hope that we were a blessing to them. But my word was actually joyful, but Marvin stole it. So my other word was overflowing. And I just felt like I couldn't have been more blessed than to be in that experience with this team and with the Ecuadorians.
Yeah, it's true. Like if you go on one of these mission experiences, it's like our church motto, vision statement, whatever you want to call it. It shows you how to live that out, how to love others, love people well. We knew going on this trip that it would challenge us physically, and spiritually was one of those things we knew would happen, but not as much as we experienced while we were there. Melanie, could you tell us about what challenged you the most spiritually while serving in Ecuador?
Okay, so I'll try not to be long-winded, Josh. So for me, it started way before this trip. Like my whole life as an adult doing missions or things, I've done things in the United States. I'm like, I don't need to go over there. There's all these barriers. I don't speak the language. There's lots of things that need to be taken care of right here in our hometown, in our state, in our country, So I'm thinking language barrier, time away. The physical aspect of it. My husband's a real, jack of all trades. I'm just, hand him the tools. But I'm thinking, how am I going to do this? And Dacry's pushing on me a little bit over here, and she's like, you're not getting any younger. And I'm like, that is very true. So I didn't know that, but that was a spiritual battle my whole life. Satan kept putting these things, oh, you're too old, or you have a desk job. What do you need to be doing, missions in another country for? You do not speak the language. So I was in the spiritual battle and did not even know I was until I got the understanding during this time. So I worry the whole time. I'm looking up things. I'm worried about eating. I'm worried about offending someone because I don't want to eat the food. And so that's why I was 3 pounds overweight on my luggage because I packed so much food, which I did not eat. So God solved everything that I was worried about was a non-issue, like completely non-issue. So the food was plentiful, and we were hungry because we worked really hard. I mean, Katie's digging ditches over here. They're cutting down trees. We're painting. We're mudding. Marvin's on the roof doing roofing and electrical. We're working really hard. He made that possible. I couldn't have done that for 8 hours a day on my own. I mean, I sit at a desk. So the language barrier. I had this wonderful conversation with this woman in Sunday school class, and she talked for a long time, very enthusiastically, and so did I. And I have no idea what she said, and I'm pretty sure she didn't know what I was saying either, but we were together, and we were loving, and we were worshiping. It was the people there we were there to pour into them, but they poured into us. So, God overcome all those obstacles. And the biggest thing that I felt the spiritual connection. I felt God with me every step of the way. And all the noise was gone, all the chaos, all the to-do list. We were just there to do a job for God, to communicate with the community, which, like I said, language barrier, but we still did it. We served them, they served us. And God solved everything. It was just a spiritual experience for me. And I want the young people of our church and the old people, like everyone here needs to go. They really do. If I can do it, anyone can do it.
That's a great reminder. I go back to the trust, the giving God your yes, despite the spiritual doubts that may come up. I think of the book of Galatians that we're going through. It's this call to, and there's nothing else you need except for the gospel, except for God. Give him that yes, give him that trust, and that's it, and so often we're given doubts or what ifs or what if we need this as well, right? And
I wasn't even aware of it. And and every week for 6 years now, I've been saying, go therefore, make disciples of all nations. And it's at that moment when you really start thinking about it. I'm doing it here, but I'm not going to all nations. And we say it every week.
That's good. I love it. That's a great message for the church. This last question is kind of for everybody. What else do you think out of this trip, out of this experience in Ecuador, what else do you think the church as a whole needs to hear?
Have faith. He'll see you through it.
Yes, definitely have faith. Please take the opportunity to do this. I'm a world traveler by nature because of the military, but just love one another. Give that person you don't know a chance. Don't judge them right off the bat. We got there, and there might have been some tendencies for that, but that just wiped away real quick. So love one another.
I think my favorite thing about mission trips is just the busyness of the everyday is kind of put to the side, and you get that time to just experience God. Really the way we were meant to experience him. The last day we hiked to the top of the mountain, and like I said, you really didn't have to be on top of a mountain to see how beautiful, the beautiful mountains, and just knowing that, the creator of that beautiful scenery and the God that put it in the hearts of the missionaries to be there and serve these people, and the same God that we were worshiping together, in Spanish and English with the church there in Calicut, is the same God that is listening to me pray every day. And it was just so cool to see what he is doing, in other countries and the hearts of other people, and just more of his creation. And, it's just, I was just so humbled that we got to be, that he invited us to be a part of it, to see what he's doing, and that is the same God that's working in our church, that, that we're praying to, that's going to make sure we have a successful VBS in a few weeks, and just, it's very humbling to know we are all invited to be a part of it. And I just think that's so cool. Yeah.
Community and personal relationships. I loved the time that we spent in the church and how they want to feed you constantly. That was definitely their love language, but it was less, they called it flexidor. It was less timely and organized and precise, and it was more about just spending time with one another and talking about God and worshiping God, singing songs. I will say I have a beautiful women's community here that have prayed me through so many things, but are we really making relationships with everybody in the church, reaching out and just forming that? Because your community is such an important part of your walk with Christ, and they really exemplified that.
I'll just piggyback off of that for a second. I traveled thousands of miles. I've been at this church for 5 years, and I know all these people, but I didn't get to know them until we were on that trip, in Ecuador. I've sat next to them. I've, hey, how are you kind of thing, but I got to know their hearts on that trip, and I just think that's something we don't need to travel that far to turn around and get to know the person next to you and have that community like Dacre was talking about.
I think I learned that we need to slow down and remember that our stuff doesn't matter. One of the things that we did there on the last day, one of our last big experiences was it was called a shoeless solo time, right? Those shoeless, and it was exemplifying Moses in the burning bush, right? We weren't shoeless. They said, "Don't take your shoes off." They said not to take your shoes. We didn't have to be shoeless, but we just it was time where we spent. It was a solid. Was it 2 hours? That we got, and we just went off, and they have 200 acres that we could go anywhere we wanted, sit and spend time with the Lord. And I was like, man, I don't have time for this. Like in my day-to-day life, here in Ecuador I do, but in my day-to-day life I don't. And then I started reflecting and sitting there. I was like, I do. You have time. There's plenty of time to sit with the Lord daily, but also I bet you could find 2 hours in your week. I know we're all busy. I know we are, but you could find 2 hours to just sit with the Lord. Go outside, stay inside, whatever you want to do. It's hot outside. But sit with the Lord, dwell with him, read your Bible, pray with him, listen to worship songs, but intentionally not going on social media, not worrying about life, not worrying about work, sports, whatever your schedule is, school, just sitting with the Lord, dwelling with him, giving those things to him. That's intentional, and I think something we could all learn from.
Yeah, I think I'm going to piggyback off of what Katie said. Of there's an invite there, and kind of what we're hitting at is there's an invite given to us as Christians to step into what God has got for us, to give him our yes and to pursue building his kingdom. My word was muy rico, which is Spanish for very rich. And that day before we got asked what the word was for the week, we went over to a couple's house and made some food with them. And I told them their food was good. I said, muy bien. And they were like, if you want to sound authentic, sound like a real Spanish speaker, food you say is very rich. It's muy rico, and it's got a lot of flavor, and there's just a lot to it. Is kind of what that term means. And for me as a trip, stepping into that, that's the invitation that we're given, is to step into a life that is more rich and more meaningful and more packed full than anything else we could provide for ourselves. Any material thing that we could have, any money that we could have, the gospel is way more rich than any of that. I think of the only time that God is referred to as being rich in something is he's being rich in mercy. That is the gift of something we don't deserve. But we don't deserve to go on this trip. We don't deserve to have these experiences. We don't deserve to have his power move within us, but yet we're invited into that. I heard a pastor say one time that it's not if you're called, but to who and where you're called. It's not if you're called to go on a mission trip or share your faith. It's who and where are you supposed to go and share your faith. We say that every week as we end our service. Go therefore, make disciples of all nations. So I'm so excited to see what God is going to do in all of our lives and what God is going to use this experience for within the church. I'm going to pray over this trip, and we're going to continue our worship. So let me pray for us. Gracious Lord, we thank you for the mercies that you give us. The invitation to go and step into a life that is bigger and better than anything we can manufacture on our own. God, we thank you for the gospel, the forgiveness of sins, the relationship that you give us with yourself, that the God who created all of creation, all of the universe, looks at us and says, I want to know you. And more importantly, I want you to know me and to learn how to glorify me with your life. So God, I ask that this morning that would be us. That would be our call, is to step into that relationship. Give you our yes, whatever that looks like in our lives, Lord. Help us to slow down Help us to find more of you. God, we love you. We're so thankful for you this morning. We pray all of this in your Son's name. Amen.